I left Royal Navy on the Friday and joined Royal Mail on the Monday.
They not only sort of accepted the differences, but they saw it as a benefit.
I was maybe away training for the weekend, back late Sunday night, and then straight on the front line being postie on Monday morning, doing it all over again with thorns hanging out of my ear or can't train in my ear.
I started at Christmas, so it was really busy, and I just pretended that every day was like a wee mission. I was just walking as fast as
So hi, my name is Yoma Mali and I work at Royal Mail as the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Program Manager, and one of my roles is looking after our employee resource groups. Today I am joined by members of our MiLNet employee resource group, that's our military armed forces community of colleagues, to learn about their experiences, their advice and what it means to work for a forces-friendly employer. I'd like to ask my colleagues, Hannah, to please introduce themselves. I'll start with Hannah here.
Hi, so I'm Hannah Whitecross. I am the Senior HR Business Partner for Anglia. I left the Army as a regular in January 24, and this is my first employment at Royal Mail, which I've been here for just 13 months now.
It's gone quickly. And yourself, David?
I'm David Smith. I'm a postman and driver at Royal Mail, East Belfast delivery office, and I left the Royal Navy in 2022.
Hi, I'm Connor. I'm a comm in Belfast East Delivery Office. I was ex-Royal Irish Regiment. I left in 07 and then joined Royal Mail in 2011. Also been Royal Mail since, from an RPG right to a comm. And I've had several reservist responsibilities, from signals to Royal Marine Reserves.
Thank you.
I'm Paul Belson. I'm in the collections program team. I joined Royal Mail in 2007, straight from the Royal Navy. I did 10 years in the Navy, been with Royal Mail since. And in the last 2 years, I joined the Royal Naval Reserve down where I'm based in Plymouth.
What attracted you to Royal Mail as an employer? So I'll start with Paul, if you don't mind.
I'm based, I was in the Navy, found myself in Plymouth, have a family and 2 children, and obviously wanted to remain in the southwest. So Royal Mail sort of found our way towards each other. Royal Mail being a national employer, I realised there was a big company of opportunities to, develop and grow within a company, but not have to relocate my family, which is one reason I left the Navy, to have that family stability, which Royal Mail offered up at the time.
I like that. Thank you. And yourself, Hannah?
Yes, similar. So husband is still serving. So I needed a organisation or a business that was large enough and sort of located in lots of areas in case we do have to sort of up and move. I think what also attracted to me was not just the size, the opportunity, leaving the armed forces. You sometimes think where you want to go or the area you want to work in, whereas if you can work in a large organisation, the opportunity to move around is there. And again, another sort of pull for me to the Royal Mail was the sort of the pace of it, the operations, the front line. It's very familiar to what I'm used to working at that pace. So it felt more comfortable sort of transitioning across.
In terms of culture, would you guys say, how different actually would you say that Royal Mail is in regards to you being part of the Army, and then now that you're working at Royal Mail, how would you describe that culture? Like, how was that for you?
I think the culture is very similar. You come in the morning and all the lads are there, and girls, and everybody's cracking on and having a laugh, and they're doing their job that they need to do. The packets are getting sorted, the mail's going everywhere. It's busy, but everyone's having a bit of a laugh about it, and everyone's aware of who's going to need some extra help that day, or if it's a really heavy day, the managers are usually distributing lads who are quieter to get them quickly and go and help them lads, and that sort of sense of teamwork and pride in working with each other is always there.
I travel a lot in the country in Royal Mail, and there is generally, most office has one ex-regular military member. So there is that familiarity. There's a lot of people on ex-forces, but like I said, as David says, it's definitely that teamwork and that camaraderie and working together as a team to achieve the aim. So that's what, did attract me when I looked into Royal Mail. There's huge differences, obviously, but there's definitely some familiarities, and that was a bit of a comfort when I first transitioned to move across.
Okay. When you, one second, I'll come to you in a minute. But when you travel and you meet other people that are ex-military or something, like, does that change anything for you? Like, does that add to your experience of Royal Mail?
Yeah, definitely. I think Royal Mail's a huge culture and variety of people you meet. It's myself as a ex-forces, there's an immediate conversation. David, I could talk about our time in the Navy together, so we've got a starting point. But I think, just chatting to Hannah earlier, depends where you are in the country. Obviously, Plymouth is a big naval city, so there is pockets. Even though I went to I think Bridgend a couple of years ago, randomly a guy I served with in the Falkland Islands is a postie in there. So that was obviously a connection I had. But even the people that aren't ex-regular, there's lots of people that have family and friends. The military is obviously a big employer in the UK as well as Royal Mail, so there's lots of crossover and lots of familiarity.
You were going to say, Connor?
Yeah, so I just in the culture and it's quite the similarities. It was whenever when joining Royal Mail, you have that you're packing your wagon, you're getting ready, you're on time, you're getting your kit ready, you're hitting a patrol or a yump or a tab every day. You're doing 10, you're doing 8-10 miles a day, and you have that sort of similarity, and you have that pride of you still belong and you still doing the same job to a certain degree. I think that's where the crossover is quite similar on frontline to infantry is what I believe, yeah.
Thank you. So in terms of community and belonging, we have our military employee resource group, MiLNet. Hannah, would you like to share more about MiLNet?
Yeah, as I kind of said, it's relatively new, trying to get a bit more established and just trying to work out. And, as you've already heard, there's pockets of military everywhere. And it's like, well, let's all connect. Let's try and support each other. And that's normally one of the hardest things when you leave the army or the Navy, any of the forces, is that teamwork, that sense of belonging, and it's with like-minded people. So it's sort of creating that within the Royal Mail, but also how can we support all those that are impacted by service life? So it's not just veterans, ex-regulars, it's reservists, ex-reservists, it's spouses, it's those part of the adult cadet force as well. It's anyone that's impacted by service life. What can we do within Royal Mail to not just help your transition, help you unlock your potential, succeed, give you that confidence, because you are in a completely different world, but also sort of that sort of buddy system, looking out for each other, but making sure that our pledges, our policies and our practices are right for the military community as we sort of move forward, as we get more and more established.
Okay, I think one final question in this area. David and Paul, you've both been at Royal Mail for a while now, and you do enjoy that sense of community of, working at Royal Mail, coming in, the lads and the gals, like you said. Why did you join MiLNet?
I was on a previous ERG, the family and carers one, and then MiLNet came, and it realised that it's like stuff I've been missing from the forces. It ticks that box in the essence, and as Hannah said, I would informally meet people and get to know, but there was no formal network. But I joined it just a bit of a payback. It's like, so I've really benefited. Royal Mail supported me my leaving the Navy and my time in the Royal Navy. So I know there's veterans out there, and as Hannah says, other people's spouses, cadets. We've got a lot of cadet volunteers. So actually trying to bring our community together and shared group and something a bit different away from the day job.
It's a brotherhood and sisterhood that you can't necessarily put your finger on what it is, and it's like there'll be people that you served with, say in the Falklands or just years and years ago, and you might have only been with them for a week's course, but you have a connection that is indescribable and so sort of deep that it's odd. Yeah. It's odd that we're this close when I've only known you for a week. Yeah. And so when you connect with people in a similar background, it's just there straight away. And then, like you say, you don't realise you miss it until you haven't got it. But I imagine all of you, I think you mentioned earlier, that we still talk to people that we served with or are still serving, because it never goes. It's a huge part of who you are.
I spoke to Connor. He rang me one day. Connor phoned me when I was in the van one day. And he said, Wayne Barty just told me that you were in the military. So he thought I was in the RAF. I cracked him pretty quickly on that. And we sort of shared a wee moment that we'd both been to CTC. Only a very small difference is that he passed out like this. And then I went to the Navy. But only today now I'm learning about MiLNet, and that's that community thing that you're touching on. That, like I said to Connor when he rang me, I didn't want to say because it's sort of hush-hush in Northern Ireland, but I said I could just tell by the way he walked. By the way he talked, he's got to be a Pongo at least.
It's a
whole physical thing.
It's a fella.
It's a 4-finger point. And it's a clear cut line.
He spotted you as a Pongo, but he spotted him as a crap. So I was going to say that. But the bit for MiLNet's come out recently through Hannah and Robert, the chair. There's some events, lots of events in London, some really amazing events that I never got to go to. The Armistice Day and some of the celebrations in London, and suddenly we're getting tickets and things like there's some. There are perks. There's a real privilege to go along to these things as ex and current Royal Mail employees. So having that network, without that,
you wouldn't know about it. I think the conversations we've been having leans into like my next group of questions about transitioning from the military and into civilian employment. You talked about community at Royal Mail earlier, and the structure, the daily structure being similar, I assume, to some of the things you would have done in the military. As the transitioning will go, how did you find that working for Royal Mail? Before MiLNet, how was the transition for you? I'll start with you again, Paul.
It was 2007, it was a while ago, but it seems like yesterday. So I joined Royal Mail on the Ops Graduate Scheme. So there was a program in Royal Mail. There was some structures, the training centre at the time at Coton House. So we had some weeks there. And it was fine. I left Royal Navy on the Friday and joined Royal Mail on the Monday. So it was not a problem. There was some admin type things and some HR, and then Royal Mail really supported it in terms of the transfer and some of the pensions, etc. So because I was going from one big organisation to another big organisation, there was the HR teams there to support me. So it was great. I had a couple of job offers from smaller companies. I know I wouldn't have that support. And actually within a year, my youngest son got really ill and shipped to a hospital. And that's when Royal Mail really stepped up for me. I was really still supported through that. That time as a family quite difficult. And then that really realised I made the right decision to join Royal Mail. So I had that big support of the company when I needed it on a personal level.
And what about you, Connor? How was your experience?
When I transitioned, I got out of the Royal Irish regulars in 2007, joined Royal Mail in 2011. So I had a bit of time in between doing this and that until I really joined Royal Mail in 2011, and I really felt like this was the way forward. This was the right place. I felt a lot of crossover and changeover, quite similarity, and as the blokes and the lads and the girls, obviously you work alongside. That's when I thought this was. So whenever I stayed with the Royal Mail, and then I joined Reservist too. At the same time, I thought this was time then just to spread out and go to reserve. So that sort of supported right the whole way through.
Well, Hannah, how was your transition?
Transition was really hard because what we do in the military, there's lots of sort of layovers where it's quite similar, but a lot of employers are quite nervous because they're not familiar with it. So even though you've translated your CV as best as you can, the equivalent, it makes them uncomfortable. So it was really quite a challenging transition. And then when I started looking into the Royal Mail and thought, the similarities, as we've already touched on, I was having my interview, and they not only sort of accepted the differences, but they saw it as a benefit, actually, and that's an addition that you'll be bringing to the team with your sort of ex-military experience. And that's probably one of the first interviews. It was like, hang on a minute, I'm not fighting to try and translate what I've done. They want it. They actually are encouraging what I can bring to the team. So it was very hard, but it was a very easy interview in that sense. And then it was easy just to pick Royal Mail then.
So what about you, David? Was your transition into Royal Mail any different from?
No, mine was very similar to Connor's. It was quite slow. I never felt like I was settled in a company. I felt like there's an environment that you get in the military amongst your mates, amongst the work, that just, it's so hard to be replicated on Civvy Street anywhere. I think there's like a level of excitement and like speed and like go, and everyone's got the same attitude. And a lot of workplaces, when people haven't experienced that, a normal working life is like, it's 9 to 5. It's quite repetitive. It's hard to settle into. And I worked in the kitchens, offices, doing the bar, and nothing was really sticking. And when it came to Royal Mail, and I felt like I pretended like every day. I started at Christmas, so it was really busy, and I just pretended that every day was like a wee mission. I was just walking as fast as I could, and I was like, if I'm not the first person back to Salvas, I'll be raging. But I was only here, so I was always the last. But I was hammering it, you know, and I was trying to get all the parcels, get all the mail out, and it was great. Now I feel like I would definitely stay here for a long time.
I think David's touched on, and I think we've already sort of looked at in the culture, is that competitiveness.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, like, were you competing against anyone else, or it was just anyone and everyone at the same time? It's just, no, none of these civilians are going to beat me today. I'm going for a kind of thing.
It was like father, like everything was a competition.
I think that's it. Sorry, Colin. Obviously, all businesses are competitive because they want to be the best, and of course, Royal Mail's up there with that. But it's in-house competitions as well. You've got the regional leagues, and so it's brilliant. Like, you know, and you do engage, like, especially so in the HR community. Yeah, all the other business partners, we all engage and we all support each other. Absolutely. But damn straight, Anglia are going to be number one.
Okay, then we need to hire more people from the military then and keep the competition going. So this leads me then into our next question. So it's about your experiences within the military, and then also the skills that you gained, or even skills that you had before you joined the military. How are the things then, your experiences and skills that you developed in the military, how have they benefited you at your role at Royal Mail, within Royal Mail, or, you know, are they of any value to you right now? Is there anything that surprised you? I think you were talking about, you know, skills that you had, but you were not expecting that to, like, be required in your job, or not even putting them on your CV, like.
The biggest one I found, these guys will probably back me up, I hope they do, it's just being organised.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the organisation, just organised just as opposed to out on delivery, organising your bags in their van in the correct order, saves times out there, do things, just being 1,000 gazelles, just being punctual, and the time in the military, having that decision making, as Hannah has touched on, bring that confidence in. You can speak out and speak to people, and work in a team. Yeah, definitely working in a team and organisation.
I think that's why as well, when things don't go to plan. And not absolutely knocking you off, like, right, flap. I was trying not to use it. It's not a flap. It's like, you just get on with it. Or you start other codes. You start coming up with the courses of action. Like, what am I going to do to mitigate that? You know, on every level. And you know, and as well as when you first did, you started to peak, it must have been horrendous, you know, with everything coming in at you at different angles and all the different areas in the business. It's so fast paced, and there's so many sort of different things that are happening. It's juggling, and it's being able to do that and still be calm and get on with your job without it sort of overwhelming.
But yeah, and I don't want to say conflict, but we'll talk about some different conflicts in the military. But there is that. When I first joined Royal Mail, there were certain things in dealing with customers. I thought, I'm not qualified, I'm not a sales, I'm not that. I didn't shy away from it, but then I realised after a while, it's just dealing with people, dealing with our customers, the most important thing. And guys, I posted this on the streets, speaking to people is so important, and there will be conflict. In my latest project, we're dealing with post offices, and there's conflict, and but talking through each other's issues, which the military are really good at, because they go to war zones, go to really difficult places in the world and speak to people and get things done. It happens every day in the UK. But you see people that aren't used to conflict and really struggle with it.
Yeah. So I can't vouch for the Navy, but in the Army, it's all about solutionising it. It's like, how can we get it fixed as fast as we can?
Okay, this has happened. What
are we going to do?
That's like every day, every morning.
What information have I been given?
This traffic's here, this came in the parcels here, what are we going to do? We'll get them back,
So it's a bit late for me, but writing that on a CV, especially if you're a bit younger, leaving the Navy or the Army, the Air Force, and you've got some specific courses and skills, and that's all you focus on. Actually, it's the other stuff that's more important for most employees, and it's really hard to sell that to yourself. But like I say, you don't understand what you've learned till you've been in the military for a year or 20 years. You're going to have some huge skills.
And so just another one that's just popped into my head at the beginning is delivering, if you're presentations, briefs. Like, I've sat in some wonderful, long-winded briefs that could have been a lot more succinct, and actually the message gets across a lot better when you just get to the point, which is what we're all very familiar with. That's a real art, maybe, that we didn't realise that
I just take that one every morning. Then talking to my team every morning, and morning take fives and morning huddles. It's the delivering and what message you want them to take on board. Yeah, 100%.
Someone made a good point on the adaptability side of things, on from the experience of a postie, and you go on the ground. Especially, I've only been maybe there about 6 months now, so I'm still getting chucked around in different areas, like other sides of Belfast, and like you go on a walk you've never seen before, and you have to basically just look at the frame and try and remember kind of what it looked like when you get on the ground. And that's like, you think it looks like a certain way, and then you get out there, and then one street's like way far away, and you have to just be able to like switch on. Do you know what I mean?
So both of you are reservists. How do you balance your responsibilities as a Royal Mail employee and also as a reservist?
So the time whenever I joined the Royal Marine Reserves, the course was, it was a year. So it was a year commitment to go from a recruit to get a green light. So I was every other weekend, we was training every other weekend. So it's quite, trying to get that balance was difficult, but it sort of got there. And the team within Royal Mail, they helped me get it, they helped me be there, and sort of adapted with my time of doing it. So I was maybe away training for the weekend, back late Sunday night, and then straight on the front line being postie on Monday morning, doing it all over again with thorns hanging out of my ear or canteen in my ear. But yeah, so that was for a year. I'd done that, and then the first 6 months there, you got your 2 weeks annual camp, which was your phase one course. Then in another 6 months, it did the exact same, and then the commando course was 6 months at the end of it. That fell into the second year with your 2 weeks annual camp. So yeah, the equipment was long, but the support from the business was excellent. Without the support of the business, and there's no way I could have done it. So they did give me that commitment of every other Saturday off, which is unheard of, because obviously some are 1 and 6 or 1 and 4s. So that was quite low key that I was off every other Saturday. But whenever some of the lads knew that what I was doing it for, then it was, they were accommodating. But yeah.
When you leave the forces, there's quite a big thing, join the reserves, because it's like a no-brainer really, because you're qualified and you can transfer straight over. I considered it, but I didn't commit at the time, because I wanted to concentrate on Royal Mail. It was a new career, it was a lot, and that's during a big training course, so I didn't. But only took me about 10 years, and I just did it for a couple of years, just left recently. So I joined the Royal Naval Reserve, and I only did because at that point in the Royal Mail, I was a bit more comfortable in my role, and had a line manager and spoke about it, and actually looked into some of the policies. And I didn't realise, I wish I'd done it sooner, I didn't realise it was a sort of standard. You'll get your 2 weeks leave spread across the year to do courses. So it's basically 2 weeks paid leave. So why wouldn't you do it? Again, it's time and place. So when it worked for me, it was great. And my line manager was really supportive, because the policies are in place. It's a big company. You couldn't say no. You wouldn't want to anyway. It's a standard, so it's expected, and that's why the Armed Forces Covenant, we've got those policies in place to support reservists, etc.
Absolutely. And the policies, they're not new. Like, we've had them for many years now. It's just, like you said earlier, people don't know about it. We're not. But with MiLNet now, we're better able to reach people like yourself and then share that with them. So then the world's getting smaller. What Royal Mail's world's getting smaller, and people are aware of that. Hannah, I have a question for you in regards to be a military spouse. You used to travel a lot. Do you used to travel now?
Yeah, so we would normally move around every 2 years, every 2 to 3 years, which from an employer's perspective, we are, as a spouse, we're not a very attractive cohort, because it's like, well, why am I going to take you for such a short period, or why am I going to invest all this time in to train you up to get you into the business, and then you're going to move again. So that was never really a question with Royal Mail, because as we've already alluded to, it's everywhere. So if I did need to move again, the opportunity to serve in a different region, the options are there, and obviously with the remote working, and it's a lot more flexible. But whereas before you would not necessarily hide, but you would hold back the information that you were a spouse, because you didn't want it to impact your chances of getting employment. Whereas, say, Royal Mail fairly supported that. My line manager is very supportive. So when my husband is away, there's an element of understanding about flexibility, as sort of then becoming a single parent looking after the 2 little ones. He completely understands that if I need to drop off early or whatever it is to make it work, I will. And obviously it doesn't impact my work. So it's just an understanding that it's been allowed to happen.
Well, thank you. So we've been able to support you by being flexible, and then also allowing for, should you have to relocate, there might be another region for you to work, or you might be able to work from home until there's something available where you are. Okay. And then also you can travel.
And that's what's really interesting. I think, like, from an army perspective, you normally live on the base or just outside, so your commute's never more than like 15 minutes. And all of a sudden you're working with people who it's quite normal to commute 45 minutes, hour and a half to where they are. And so what was all of a sudden, well, I'm going to have to find a job in this location, just keeps expanding. And then you're like, well, hang on a minute, Royal Mail's everywhere. And, depending on the hybrid working, flexi work, so the opportunities are fully open, and you're allowed to go to apply for a lot more sort of array of jobs than you probably initially would have thought of, being, from your previous situation.
David, do you have anything that you'd like to add? I feel like I spoke to you the least. So if there's anything burning on your mind, would you like to put it on the table?
I don't think so, no. No. Honestly, I think I've probably done the least in military service here. But
I've got a question for you then. So you're obviously quite recent leaving. Have you got mates that still in? That you recommending Royal Mail to some friends that are currently looking to leave?
Or which is to Royal Mail from the military? Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Definitely. Especially like for me, the biggest thing is like the physical thing of it. And that's just me personally, and anybody who wants to be outdoors and moving and getting a bit. Royal Mail's perfect.
Free fizz.
Free fizz.
Free fizz. Yeah.
And for me, that was the perfect thing. Like, you're hood up, rain on, you're just marching as fast. And I think that's a big attractor for anybody in the military, because that's for anywhere like Marines, Army, Navy, like everybody's like wanting to have an active life. And it pushes ends active for sure. As Connor alluded to, like I've seen on my Garmin, there's days I walk 30k. Yeah, seriously.
Thank you for joining us to hear from some of our incredible Armed Forces community members. If you are inspired and want to learn more about careers at Royal Mail, follow us on social media or visit our website to explore opportunities. We are proud to be a Forces-friendly employer, and we'd love to welcome you to the team.